Hey guys, it's Tom here with another audio post-production tutorial. We're going to be working in Pro Tools today and using battery to make a vehicle sound. You can do this same trick with probably any other drum machine or sampler that has a loop function, and we're going to be using each one of these cells to trigger a sound and loop it and then vary the pitch a little bit to give a little bit of randomness. And it's just easier to show you how this works. So the first thing I need to do is make sure that one key on my keyboard, I guess I'll do C1 on this, will trigger all the loops. So I can just hold down one key and play the engine sound. So let me MIDI learn, make sure that's C1. We'll do this one, see that's C sharp. I'll just do the same. So what this will do is whenever I hit C1 on my MIDI controller, it will trigger all the cells that are assigned to it instead of having to play like a chord. Although you could use that. You could have different notes trigger different sounds. We're just going to start with 6. So I'm going to load up some kick samples into this sampler. Let's listen. Let's see what we got here. Let's do that. That's got a little saturation on it. Next cell. Let's do that one. And for this last cell, let's go ahead and do some one-shots. Not even going to be a drum. It's just going to be, let's look at the impacts. See that one. That's kind of gnarly. Okay, so how this works. Now, if I hit C, it just plays all the samples at the same time. That's not what we want. So I'm going to start with this cell, and I'm going to go to the editor, and I'm going to change this from a one-shot to a loop. And click Add Loop. Kind of nice. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to main and I'm going to learn MIDI CC and I'm just going to twiddle a knob. So you see by twisting that knob, I'm increasing the pitch, which is then changing the speed of the loop. Now I want to have the lowest pitch actually be useful as an engine sound. So I need to shorten this loop. And the other thing I'm going to do is bring the pitch up. So if I like that cell to be that speed, let's say a low idle, now I'm going to go into modulation and we're going to assign LFO1 to be the tune, and we're not going to do a lot of it. We just want enough to give it some pitch variation. That's cool. Okay, now I'm just going to do the same thing for each one. I'm going to add one at a time. Let's go to this one. Let's go to editor and change this to loop. Add loop. You could copy and paste the cell and just change out the samples if you want. Okay. All I did was go through each cell and in the editor here, set up a loop point, change the pitch on the loop, make sure that the MIDI controller was affecting the pitch of the sample, and then add a little bit of modulation. On some of these, I also added a low-pass filter just to cut off some of the crispy highs. You can go crazy with battery and add saturation or different effects. Basically, whatever you want. It's kind of like a little sound design workshop if you use it this way. But I'm going to play you now, starting from the lowest RPM up to the highest RPM, what this futuristic vehicle sounds like. And you can see I let this one ring out at the end, where when you let up on the trigger, the sample finishes. So pretty cool. This would be great for a sci-fi project or anything where you need the sound of cylinders, but it doesn't, it can't sound like a truck or a boat or a car or an airplane. It needs to sound different. So this is also great because you can use any sample you want. You could record yourself going into the mic and use that as one of these cylinders. That's how I look at these cells. Each one is like a cylinder. If you really want to go for realism, you should probably also add some kind of impulse response, just because engines don't operate in a vacuum. They normally have some kind of hood around them or some kind of enclosure. Let's check out this dustbin preset in Altiverb. So what we're going to do finally is just record some automation. And that's the great thing about this method versus hand cutting in from a library, which works for most things. You record the car and then you cut it in sync with picture. I really like performing stuff in sync with picture, just like a Foley artist would, just doing it in sync while it plays back. If you have to design some kind of futuristic vehicle, definitely consider giving battery a shot, or any other kind of drum machine or sampler that has a loop function. It can give you some really cool sounds, and the possibilities are endless as far as what samples you use to trigger. And it's also a great alternative if you have battery or you have some kind of sampler and you don't want to spring for like igniter or any of the other engine VSTs. You can just make your own from scratch. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.